So audition approach, I've been teaching for, since 2004 actually. I was teaching with different schools from 2004 to 2008, mostly in the Bay Area, some kids schools, some adult schools. I started when my acting teacher said, I think you would be a really good teacher, so I'm going to start you out in an intro class. So I started teaching like the basics of acting at a school in San Francisco. And our students are pretty successful. My students in particular, I started teaching on my own in 2008. Some of my students include William Lipton, who's an Emmy nominee on General Hospital, and the Espina sisters, and Marissa Abea, who is the host of Disney's Let's Make Star Wars. And I have a lot of kids and students that have been successful in like signing with agents and making the transition from the Bay Area to LA really successfully. Dang, I use successful like so many times. And the reason why I think that that is because the way that I teach, I try to prepare them for LA standards. And if you are in a smaller market and you come with the mindset or that you want to be as good as the LA actors, then you start booking everything in your smaller market. So what I do is I try to make it really simple for kids. And I think that's kind of why my approach to like breaking down scenes and auditions works, because I like to keep it simple. So first thing that I tell the kids is, or tell any of my students, I shouldn't just say kids, it's just I work with a lot of kids and teens because I look like this, and a lot of older people don't quite trust that I know what I'm talking about. So what I tell them first is that I tell them that the relationships are the most important in the scene. If you don't know who it is that you're talking to or talking about, there's really no reason for the scene to exist, because even if you want something from someone, if you don't care about them or hate them or feel some certain way about them, there's no reason for you to have interaction with them. So I tell my students that the relationship is the most important, and it would be good if you can make the person that you're talking to in the scene somebody that in your life that you actually feel strongly about. Like, we do substitution work. And I find that it's easier for people to relate to that than to interact with like a general mom, dad, friend, whatever. I think that the reason why scenes become so magical is because they get so specific. So, you're going to play a scene, you're going to react to your own mom very differently than you are when you're talking to like a pretend mom. So I kind of come up with, when I start working with students, we come up with a good handful of substitutions, like people in their life that they really care about, that they can like, substitute easily for different scenes. So for example, like in any commercial scenes, usually you're talking to a friend. You're never just talking like, I'm talking to the person on the other side of the camera that's watching the commercial. That doesn't do anything for you. You want to talk to a friend that you really trust. You want to talk to somebody that you would honestly share information with, like always your best friend. In commercials, you're usually never selling anything. You're just sharing the information. You're just sharing how this product helped you, better, or, So, like, if you make the relationship personal to you, it just makes your scene work more specific. So that's the first thing that I teach is, like, relationships are your most important thing in the scenes. Second thing is motivation, objectives, it's called different things in different schools, but I simplify it and I say, okay, so what do you want? That's like the easiest thing. Like, what do you want in the scene? Simplify that and say, okay, as this character, I want X, I want the other character to whatever that is in the scene. I want my mom to give me the car keys so I can go out on a date, or whatever it is in your scene. Really simplify it and try to make it something that you're getting from the other person so that the scene becomes about the other person and not what you're doing to them. Because sometimes I find that when actors put things into, I want to console somebody, it's an active thing, but it's all about what you're doing to other person as opposed to like what you're getting from the other person. So instead of being, I want to console somebody, I'd be like, I want my best friend to feel like she's supported? What would that look like at the end of the scene? Whether or not I get what I want at the end of the scene, like I'm going to have in my head, I want her to say, thank you, he was a jerk and I should have listened to you from the beginning. Like I make it a very specific objective that I go after, and I simplify it for kids and teens by saying, okay, what is it that you want? What is it at the end of the scene that if you had like the perfect thing at the end of your scene, what would that look like? Now, like if you're actually in a scene, part of being an actor is playing the scene moment to moment, knowing what you want at the beginning of the scene. And even though you know what's going to happen at the end of the scene, you don't know it as the beginning as your character. So, even if you know what you want, you may not get it, and that's where a lot of the conflict happens. But being specific about saying, okay, this is what my character wants in this scene, gives you like a strong thing to go after, if that makes sense. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Okay. And then the third thing that I think is the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things that I teach my students, is making memories. And I call it making memories because basically what we're doing as actors is we're tricking our brains into believing that this thing, this scene, the things that we had prior to the scene actually happened to us. That's how we can like put ourselves in that scene and really live it. So I go through the whole scene and I make memories for everything that I need to make memories about. And sometimes it's not even stated in the dialogue. Like I will literally circle all the things that I need to make memories about, whether, if I say, I had a fight, like, in an argument with, whoever, my boss. If I say I had an argument with my boss, I will go in my head, use my imagination, use all of my senses, and know exactly what my boss said to me, what I said back, what it was about, what specific words he used that made me feel insignificant. So I will go and I will detail out those memories in a way that it makes it feel real to me. And every single little thing in that scene I will make a memory for, because that's how I can really sink myself into it. And then when I teach kids, or when I teach my students, when you watch them, like you can start seeing where they're specific in their memories or whether there's like nothing behind their words. So a lot of my work with my students is kind of like asking them questions about things that I saw in their work that needed a little bit more weight to it. So that's like that's the top 3 things that I teach, is relationships, objectives, what do you want, and then making memories. And then the other stuff of, analyzing scene work is, is there an arc to your scene? You never leave a scene the same way that you entered it. So seeing if the arc in your scene is something that is dynamic, something that makes the scene fun, that it's not like just like a one-note kind of scene. So that is, and then we go into like more about, checking the tone of the script, and what kind of TV show it is. So that's like all the stuff that goes on top of, your regular scene work of like relationships, objectives, and making memories. So, and then checking their choices on those and seeing if their choices make sense with the scene. And then, if they're doing comedy, it's also checking, seeing if there's other ways that they can play the switches that might highlight what's funny about them in particular, or, just giving them suggestions on like, oh, okay, but what if you did this as befuddled as opposed to like irritated, like giving, my students suggestions like that. Or if I know that one of my students is very gifted in physical comedy, I'll say like, let's play with this line, or, you know what I mean? So they're just different things that I ask of my students and how I approach the scene work for that. Hi, Tom. So that's audition approach. And if you guys have any questions kind of about that, I know I went really, really quickly with like the very, very basics of how I work with my students. And then, so I guess I'll talk about content creation. So one of the biggest things that I have learned as an actor is that you have to make your own work, especially in this industry. you can't sit back and just ask people to give you a role, you know. And I think that in order to have longevity in this industry, that you have to create roles. Plus, you know, and I'm speaking as a woman and a woman of color here, it's just really important to have writers and creators that are not male. Sorry, you guys. I love you guys, but it's not like they're trying to do anything wrong. It's just that they see things from a different perspective, and we need more writers out there that do have a female gaze, that are concerned about, you know, that do see the world from a different perspective. And like I used to run around with a whole bunch of like stunt guys and filmmakers, and they're great and they're amazing and they're still my friends to this day. I realized that a lot of their narrative stories were about them and about their buddies and their friends, which is totally understandable because that is their world. But in that world, you know, women were, you know, just like side players for the most part. I mean, it's changing today, but that's why we need more women and people of color to create their own stories, so that we see a mix of diversity in the stories that we see, so that we can see ourselves reflected on the screen. I feel very, very strongly about that. So content creation, there was a shift for me as an actor when I started writing myself into lead roles. There was something about the way that I saw myself that changed how the world saw me, if that makes sense. So, you know, I would say, you know, if you guys are actors in the beginning of your career, start writing yourself into the roles that you actually want to play. First of all, we need more stories, right? We just need a lot more stories that are reflective of a more diverse, a more inclusive world. And in order to have those stories, we need to have the writers. So please, my biggest thing is write yourself into the stories that you want to see. Write yourself into that hero role. Write yourself into the romantic, the romantic ingenue or leading role, even if the world doesn't see you as that, because you will inspire so many other people by doing that. Okay, I'm getting all emotional because it's really important to me. Because this Hollywood world, it's changing, but it's changing because the writers are changing it. There's, we need to be the change. We need to be the change. I'm getting all cheesy, you guys. Hi, Daniel. Daniel was in Derailed, too. So, hi there. Yeah, but write your own stuff, and it's becoming even easier these days to create your own stuff, even on this iPhone that I just got the other day because my phone was stolen. They made a whole short about a snowball fight that looks epic and amazing on an iPhone. Tangerine was shot on an iPhone 6 with amazing lighting. You guys have the tools out there to create your own content and put it out there. I find as a writer, what really motivates me is when I get angry about something, when I feel really big and deeply about something, that is something that I'm going to write about. And even if it's, I was going to say a bad word, even if it's poopy, don't worry about it. Just keep writing, because you will find something that is compelling enough for you to actually get a group of friends together and say, hey, let's make this. You don't have to have a lot of money to make something and put it on the internet. The thing that the YouTuber took and went viral, I just made that with 4 of my friends. And so the one that she stole from, if you guys were watching last year on the ridiculousness that happened there, a YouTuber took the lyrics to one of my parody songs and it went viral to 3.2 million or whatever. And she didn't even ask me, but it was out there, And from that little short, I got notice from Elizabeth Banks's Hoo Ha Ha Media, and they featured me on their site. And that was a no budget thing. I just basically paid my friends 2 years ago. Let's see, the stuff that I made for that thing that I made, it's such a stupid thing. When in Miss Universe, I think her name is Katronia, last year she was Filipina, and I was like super excited to see a Filipino Miss Universe. So I did this super stupid skit, and filmed it on my iPhone, and it got over 120,000 views or something like that. It's just like, you can do ridiculous stuff today on what you're holding in your hand. Now, to take it into you if you find something that you do like and that you are proud of and you want to, use it to promote yourself, enter into film festivals, enter it into, shorts film festivals or local things. At least, you are creating work for yourself, you're creating work for your friends, and you're using it as a tool to meet other people who are in the film industry. And that's like the biggest thing that I found that has helped me. It's helped me network is actually working. I know that I have like a little thing on here called networking for noobs as part of the topics. That's me. I'm a noob. I'm a super noob. I actually have a lot of social anxiety, and I can't do the networking thing. I don't know how. Like, I get really awkward and stupid, and I get terrified, and my blood pumps, and I talk and I blubber all the time. So networking is really difficult for me in the traditional sense of the word, where, you go to an industry event and you stand around with drinks and you're supposed to introduce yourself to other people. And I can't do that. I don't know how. So what I do is I work. I work a lot, and work begets work. So even if it's something stupid, quote unquote stupid, with my friends, like a film thing, having something to enter into a competition, having something to enter into a film festival, that's work that you can talk about. I'm not going to these industry events and standing around and be like, hi, hello, how are you? What do you do? I can't do that. But if I go to events where there's something that's actually worthwhile, like if you go to like a Q&A or some type of like educational event, that's how I find the easiest to network, because I'm going to be there for a specific reason, not to like socialize, because I don't know how to do that. Also, same with social anxiety. Yes, I feel you. Our net worth is our network. I believe that, but also I also want to kind of speak to the people that don't know anybody, because I didn't know anybody when I entered this industry. I had no idea what I was getting into. I know a lot of you guys don't know me, for the 22 people that are watching this. So I got into the industry on a fluke. I was actually in a cult when I was younger. And in this cult, we lived in the mountains, and the people that I would talk to were telemarketing people, and I would want to keep them on the phone for as long as I could, because we weren't supposed to talk to anybody like outside of like the church, right? So I would talk to these people on the telemarketing, like telemarketers, and like this guy was like, you have a really interesting voice. And at the time, the guy that they married me to did not have a job, and I had a little kid. So I was like, I don't know what voiceovers is. So I looked it up on the internet, and I sent this really so lame. Like, I'm like pounding my head because it was so dorky tape to Star's agency in San Francisco. Star's agency called me in, and we drove 4 hours from Grizzly Flats, California, to San Francisco, California for this agency interview. I interviewed with them. They sent me in the booth. They gave me the thumbs up, and they sent me on my very first audition that very day, and they booked it, and it was for a video game, and I did horribly, but that's how I got started in the industry. I didn't know anybody, and from there, I just started taking class because I was like, oh no, I have to get good. And then I started working fairly consistently. I just did what they told me to do. But I always wanted to get better. So I didn't know anybody in the industry, but the more that I worked, the more contacts that I made. And if you guys don't have contacts, like, working is the best thing. Like, whether it's like as an actor, or whether it's creating your own content, or whether it's helping out on somebody else's shoot, that's like the best way to network, because not only are you learning skills about the film set, you're actually having working relationships with people where they see what you can do and they can trust you, on the different film sets. And that's how I know a lot of filmmakers and producers and casting directors, not because like they hired me as an actor. Some of it is, but a lot of it is because I helped out on their sets and they saw my work ethic, even if it wasn't like acting wise. Like I just helped out. Like if you don't have like money, if you don't come from money, which like is like me, like a single parent, hustling every day, like I think about like what are the resources that I have that I can help other people with. So for example, like if I had a space, like I used to have a space in San Francisco that I taught out of for a very, very long time. If there were any filmmaking shoots that were happening in the area, I would donate my space as like kind of like a production hub. How does a parent network for their 14-year-old son? Hi. So I think 14, like they're going to have to prove themselves in the room. Like if they go to casting director workshops, they'll have to not audition, but like do a scene and perform well. But then as a parent, you can remind them to send thank you cards and, send like the, postcards every 3 months, follow-up postcards. I don't know if you want to network for your 14-year-old son, because he's kind of, like, he's a teenager, but he can send, thank you cards on his own. Maybe you can remind him to do so. And if like, and that's another thing, is like how I network with casting directors too. Like I know there's like a big thing about, pay for play casting director workshops and stuff. But honestly, like that's what I did in San Francisco. I booked my first LA jobs from San Francisco. I didn't know anybody. I went to a casting director workshop with, gosh, now I'm blanking on her name. It's horrible. Sarah Isaacson did a casting director workshop in San Francisco, and she saw me, and she invited me to audition for ER, and I went, and I booked it from a San Francisco workshop. I mean, you have to be good, first of all. Like, before you start doing your marketing stuff, you have to know that you have the goods, that you are competitive in the room, and that you are consistent in your work. And then, when you do go into these workshops, and they see, first of all, that you know what you're talking about, you have a good product, you understand how to act, then you can network with them. Because I know actors that have been really good on the marketing side of the thing, and, they put their package together, and which is, you need that. Like, if you don't know how to do that, get Wendy's course. You like need that. But then when they go in the room, they kind of fall flat, and that kind of like works against them, because they have great marketing skills, but they don't know how to do the acting part of it. You need both of them, honestly. They have to know that you're a good actor so that they can call you into the room, and then you have to have good headshots and good marketing so they remember you too, or even like to just get in the room. Okay, so networking for noobs. I do, because I'm an introvert, I am better online than I am in person. So thankfully in this day and age, there are things that I can do that can help promote me online. So, for example, your Twitter, your Instagram, your Facebook group, these are all Facebook, presence is important. To have a website is important. Make sure that all of your casting sites are up to date and, they're included on your materials, your business cards, all that stuff. But the interesting about Facebook and Instagram is that once you develop a relationship with a casting director, you can keep in contact with them, not to like be like, hey, come watch me in this show, on their Facebook or on their Twitter. Like, you can just see what they're up to and just say, oh, that looks really cool. Just be a part of the conversation. Then you develop like a real relationship with them. Then, constantly pushing yourself as an actor at them. Yeah, and another thing about, networking that I found is that don't really, I know this is weird, but don't really expect anything from anybody. Hi, Doc. And what I mean by that is that let these relationships develop organically. Like, yes, you're an actor. Yes, you want to be considered for the different projects that they have coming up. But in my experience, and maybe this is just me, is that the people, like, I've established friendships with people, and maybe, 3 years will go by before they even call me in. And, I feel like maybe that's a wrong thing. I don't know. But it's happened organically for me. Like, I have people that write roles for me, which I am very thankful for. But it didn't always start out that way. Like, it started out with me, like, them seeing me work as an actor consistently through the years. And that they could trust that I can handle that kind of work. You know what I mean? So just, don't, it's I'm not saying this to say, don't put yourself out there, but you don't have to, expect anything of anybody that's going to happen, right away. I guess be patient. Be patient with the relationships that you form. And here's another thing that I'm learning, too, is that my friend groups, we're kind of, the collaborations that we have, I always thought in my head that, I wanted somebody from the higher executive level to pull me up and be like, whoa. But I find that, it's actually you elevate with your friends, with the people that are kind of in your peer group. So if you are acting right now and you are in a class and you have some really great creative people in your class, those are going to be your people. You know what I mean? Around you. And I know, it's always, this thing, and yes, you're gonna have, the people at the networks and that are oh, we think this person is cool. But don't forget that the people around you are just as cool, and you can create stuff with them. Okay, so I think that's questions about networking. They say that it takes 7 times for casting directors to have a face name recognition, so don't get mad if, you see them at a workshop and then, they don't call you in because it doesn't, they might not remember you, we're all human. It takes me many times to remember somebody's name. I'm going to give people that see hundreds of people a day that same grace, So they say it takes about 7 times to make a face name recognition. So whether that's, they see on your headshot, whether, you send out a postcard for, when you book something, when you're filming it, when it airs, when you get new headshots, when you change representation, all those instances where it's okay to reach out, it's going to take a while. So also know that. Here's a caveat of what not to do. So don't go to your agent or manager or casting director friends and be like, hey, what's happening? Do you have anything for me? Because that is annoying. It is so annoying. You want to give them information that they can use. So what that means is that, and this comes from experience, not from me, but from students of mine who got signed with a really great agency, amazing agency, and this person did not have credits on their resume at all, so the fact that they got signed was really great. And then they started calling the agency every 2 weeks just to say hi and is there anything going on. So they got dropped from the agency in 2 months because you want to be an actor that is easy to work with. So, answer your agent's calls fairly promptly. Try not to reschedule things if you don't have to. And contact them when you have information that is useful for them to have. So, for example, if you did a new headshot shoot, if you took a new class, if if there's a producer that on a show that is currently casting, that's useful information for your agent or your manager to know. It is not useful for you to just check in with them. So yeah, that's about networking. On-set etiquette, I guess I'll talk about this. I'm needing wow, I've been talking for 35 minutes. That is crazy. Okay, take a short, that's a short enough break. Okay. Okay, so on-set etiquette. Are there any questions about the things that I've talked about before? I guess not, because nobody's asking the questions. Okay, on-set etiquette. It's, in order to keep a film set running smoothly, there is kind of like a chain of command that you need to know about. Extras are kind of on the bottom of that as props that eat, but that doesn't mean that you should take abuse if you do extra work. But generally it's like producers and, above the line talent, like directors and, second unit directors, all that stuff, and then the cast and crew. So when you get on set, well, first of all, when you book the job, please confirm with everybody that those dates are clear. And know that when you book something, generally, of course we want to be done 8 hours or less, but the film world is so crazy that it could be a 12 to 16 hour day. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen that day. So when you book a film, know that that is your whole day. Clear out your whole day. Don't make it real life case example. There was a couple of roles on the Christmas movie that could have been upgraded to speaking roles, and I knew that these roles had a high probability of that. And so I reached out to a friend group of mine because I wanted to put the opportunity out there for people. Paid, not unpaid at all, on a very awesome movie that I'm in. And a lot of people in this group who did not have any credits at all kept asking about when the day would end or what the availability is on the schedule, because they had to go to work at a certain time, which is totally understandable. I get it. I totally get that. But if you are being booked for a film, you should have your whole day clear. And you should not, unless you're the star, not ask for exceptions to that rule, or ask, if you're going to be done by 6 o'clock so you can get to a Christmas party. That happened on set, and that just tells the producers or whoever it is that hired you that you are not used to being on a film set at all. So, when you book the job, please make sure that your whole day is cleared out, that you don't have to leave, you don't have a hard out unless you're one of the stars, which is, that I guess that's acceptable. I have not been in that position where I get to be all super diva one day. I hope so, but not quite yet. So yeah, make sure that you book out for the whole day and confirm with people as much as possible. Confirm with your agents, confirm with whoever the production coordinator is that you are all set and ready to go. And please, do it in a good amount of time, fairly promptly, because things move so fast. On the film shoot that we just did, we had to move the schedule around because of rain. Because the outside scenes, which, I was not in the outside scenes, but the film shoot needs to move around because it's so unpredictable sometimes. Sometimes they don't finish the shoot from the night beforehand, and they have to move the schedule to the next day. So within the shoot dates of the film, you have to be flexible, because there are just things, there are moving parts that actors just don't think about. So, when you do book a role, have those dates cleared and confirm with everybody as soon as possible so they know what to do. Okay, and then when you get to set, please be there, before your call time, even if your call time is like at 8 o'clock. It'd be nice if you got there at 7:50 so that nobody is freaking out. And that's just like a good rule anyways. I apologize that I was late today because I had technical difficulties, but I did warn you that I may have technical difficulties. So, kind of, sort of. Yeah, so as much as possible for any like shoots, call times, or auditions, if you can be there 10 minutes early, that is awesome, because then they're not worried about you. They're not freaking out. The second AD is not freaking out that, the talent didn't show up. May I ask what we should write in an email when looking for an agent or manager to grab their attention? Okay, so I will segue back into that. Make sure that your package to the agent is a good package, and you can refer to Wendy's stuff about that. Basically, agents want to know that you are constantly getting better as an actor, that you're booking because agents want to make money, and that you have a flexible schedule, and that you are professional. And for smaller markets, you can include some personality stuff as well. Like I had one of my students say something to the fact that she's been to over 200 concerts, which gives you a sense of her personality. I think in one of my beginning cover letters to agencies, I said that 1, my mom made me kiss Imelda Marcos on the cheek, and 2, that I used to teach street children in the Philippines as part of a church program, so they kind of got a sense of who I was. So, yeah, for agency cover letter stuff. Back to on-set etiquette. Always tell the second AD where you are, so don't freak out. Be there on your call time. Know your lines. Be respectful of other actors' process. So sometimes actors have a huge emotional scene coming up, and they might want to just kind of keep to themselves. It's not that they don't like you. It's that they need to prep for their scene. They need to prep for their role, and they need to take care of themselves emotionally. So, be respectful for other people's process. What else? Let the crew go first during meal times, because they are working so hard, and then usually cast goes afterwards, and then the extras after that. Please don't leave your trailer a mess. I mean, I guess you don't have to follow that rule, but I'm just saying be polite. Because you want to be somebody that's easy to work with, That's one of the biggest things I hear is like, regardless of the fact if I'm a good actor or not, I would like to think that I am. But a lot of the feedback that I hear is that people just like working with me, so they keep calling me back to work with me again. And sometimes that's just part of it. It's like being a good person to work with is part of your package. And I've also, seen things where, seen castings where the person that was super amazing had a difficult parent, so they said no. So, just be aware that the way that you are and how you work with people is a big important factor on whether or not they will call you back or want to continue working with you or call you back for another audition. So that's part of etiquette stuff. After the film is done, you want to say thank you to the people that made it happen for you. Whether it's thank you letters to the casting or to the director, whoever it is, just thank them, because without them, you wouldn't have been seen or in the room or anything like that. And it's also part of your marketing too. And just being polite. Hi, Ashley. Let me see what else. And then if you can help promote the film, I know some of it is partly negotiated through your agent and stuff, but from the independent producer filmmaker mind of mine is like, I know how hard it is for people to make films. And so when it's time for distribution and they need you to walk that red carpet or they need you to do interviews, which they're fun anyway, try to do them if you can, because it helps promote the film and it helps promote you. There are some times where people have like, I should probably not say anything. Like, but just basically, if it's an independent filmmaker and they're making it for low or no budget, they're putting their heart and soul into it. If it's not a studio back film, and you know that they're independent filmmakers, help them out with the promotion of it. That would just be awesome, because it's something that can help you too. It's part of being like a good team player, I guess. Okay, so on-set etiquette, did I cover that? Don't bring other people on set with you unless you have permission to do so. So, with kids and stuff, you're only supposed to have one parent. And if you're an adult, don't bring on-set visitors unless you got it cleared with the producers. So for one thing is that, producers, especially on smaller shows, they have to think about catering and, just the logistics of having a lot of people in a set. There was one real life experience where one of my students got hired on a TV show and like a pilot presentation of a show. Really good writers, really good crew, but on the smaller side, it was like maybe 10 to 12 crew, but good writing and good director, and good people. And the student brought 3 people with them. Family members, yes, they were, but the producer of the program contacted me afterwards and just basically said that nobody wanted to say anything because they wanted to be nice, but it caused them overages in their catering because they weren't prepared to have that many people on set, and then they had to have games for the other family members to keep them busy. Hi, Corey. And then you also want to make sure, as I guess the parent had also gone into Video Village to talk to one of the producers to try to pitch him on a different project. So that is all kinds of bad. So you don't want to, pitch projects while they're working. So that's part of on-set etiquette. You try to, as much as possible, there's so many moving parts in independent films, be where you're needed when you're needed, and not necessarily impede on like the other department stuff, because they might not look like they're being busy, but maybe they're thinking about something, or they need to be on the ready to do something else. So yeah, don't bring any extra people on set if you have not been authorized to do so. Oh, and thank you so much. Yeah, I got an honorable mention for my film, you guys. Let's see. That was going to make me think about something else. Don't bring extra people on set with you. Yeah. Okay. So, so that's like on-set etiquette. And then also that leads into the social media stuff. So unless you have permission from the producers, don't post anything about the show until you know that you can. So, it's kind of generally bad form to ask for selfies with super key talent that are on there. It's I don't know how other people feel about that, but I know that for the sets that I was on, if you ask for a selfie, it's just kind of seen as unprofessional. And it's the same thing, if you're on a big set, sometimes the extras will go and ask the main people for pictures, but it kind of takes them out of your flow. So it's, again, the same thing about being respectful to other actors' processes, So don't post anything about the show unless you actually have permission from the producers to do so. If they say, okay, you can post on social media, sometimes there are rules about what you can and cannot post. For this Christmas movie that we did, the pictures need to be approved. You can't post, the on-set pictures need to be approved. People can post behind-the-scene photos of people, but you can't post what's on the monitor, because that's part of the film. We had a gaffer that was filming the shoot and posting it on his Instagram story. So you think that that's common sense to not do that? It's not common sense. So don't, post, don't record the scenes as they're going on and post it. Don't post the call sheet. So that happened on this shoot too. We had a couple of really big names on this Christmas movie, and some of them have really huge fan bases and really kind of like super fans, right? So one of our actors, not the big lead actor, posted a call sheet. And that's, not only are you not supposed to do that, it's also very dangerous, even though they stopped filming for that day, and it was like the day after they filmed. There are people that are still working there, that if some super stalker fan like saw that call sheet and could go to that location and just like walk around and ask for X, Y, and Z actor, that's kind of weird, and you put everybody in danger that way. So be aware about what it is that you can and cannot post on social media. Social media also for the networking things is that, like, I'm an introvert, so I have trouble in person sometimes in big networking events or parties. But social media, like, you can reach out to casting directors and, follow them and see what they're up to and get in on the conversation. And let's see, who is it? I think it was Kit Williamson that told me. So Kit Williamson is the creator of Eastsiders on Netflix, and he's really awesome because he did a web series that I think the first 2 seasons of Eastsiders were either on YouTube or before it got picked up by Netflix on the 3rd season. And this is what he told me. He said, talk about the thing like it's a thing until it's a thing. So anything that you have that you're proud of, or that you're creating, or that is something that you're like doing, like whether it's like production on something, or you just booked something, talk about the thing like it's a thing until it's a thing. And I thought that was such a great piece of advice, because we, as actors, we don't want to be creepy, but we also want to like promote our projects in a good way that is not annoying. So that was something that he told me to constantly put out there. If you're proud of something, just put it out there, because you never know. Don't shove it in people's faces like every single time. Like context is, you have to understand the context of things and not be annoying. And if people don't want you to add them on their Facebook page, like Wendy says, don't do it. So, but there are other ways that you can, like on your page, it's totally fine. Like if you have like a Facebook page, if you have an Instagram page, if you have your own website, that is your domain. You can do with that what you will. You can create your own show and put it up on there, and that is your space. But don't start posting on people's spaces just all the time, super annoyingly, without something valuable to say. Yeah, cool. I think I've been talking for a long time. And if there's anything else, you guys can bug me. I'm fairly easy to reach on my website, HollywoodActorsWorkshop.com, and my Instagram page is @geospirit2. And you guys can always reach me on TFMA. Just bug me if you have any questions after this, after my blabbering on here.